go ahead off the hood. Let's go ahead and remove the oil cap. And it tells you exactly what type of oil needs to go back in it. So 0W20. Let's go ahead and remove the oil stick here. Slide your oil pan in place and make sure that the cap for it is open. All right, so you can see it says engine oil right here. Got a little arrow, and this is going to be our drain plug. I believe it's 17 millimeter if I remember correctly. Now I've already kind of heated up the engine oil. I didn't drive it around very much, but I wanted to make sure that it was a little bit warm so it'd be easy to pour out. And you see the oil filter right here. We want to drain this out first, and then we'll remove the oil filter. Now we're going to come from this side here and undo that enough to where it starts to pour out. I don't want this to drop down into that pan, but the way I've got mine set up, it's not deep. There, I can feel that it's wanting to come out. Woo! There we go. Almost didn't have that in the right location. So you gotta be a little off center, but you don't want to be too far so that when that starts dripping down, it misses your collection. So this cap, make sure that's open so that that oil will drain down into your pan if you have the style that I have, so it won't gurgle back up and splash out. So you may need a wrench for this, depends on how tight. No, that one's pretty loose. Now oil's going to come out of this, so be ready. So I've loosened it, so you're going lefty-loosey, just like you would any nut. I've drained most of the oil out of the oil pan, so we're going to let that pour out so we don't get it all over us. And then once it finishes, then we'll go ahead and take it out, get most of that oil out, and we're going to put this oil filter face down on top of this so it'll drain into this. We undo the oil filter. So it's going to thread off, and then just turn that face down. Well, we still had quite a bit of oil up in there too. Try to prop that up so that it'll drain. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take that plug the rest of the way out. Let that finish draining. So I've got this car up at an angle so that I'll have an easier time draining the oil out. So I like to use that extension just so that if there's a drop or two of oil coming out, I'm less likely to get it on me. So I'm gonna run that down, and then we'll put a new oil filter in. I'm gonna put that on finger tight. It's kind of slippery because of the oil. And then we'll tighten it down. But we've got to get this oil pan out of the way. All right, so that's good enough for now. Let's take this oil pan out of the way, get it out of our way, and we'll seal it up. So we still got to screw this thing down so it doesn't slosh around. And we have to seal up that other little vent back here. Pick it up. All right, so let's get in here and let's tighten this down. It needs to be fairly tight. All right. We don't want any leaks. tug. All right, there we go. That's on there good. Now my dad used to prime these. He used to fill that up with oil and then put it on so that you could guarantee you had enough in. I know that there's 4.4 quarts that need to go in to this engine, so that's exactly what I'm gonna pour in here. The container I have is 5 quarts, so I'm gonna use most of that, circulate a little bit of oil through, and then we'll tighten this sucker down. Now there is a tool you can put on this, and I'll show you, and you can use this for breaking it away too, but you want to be able to get these off. So I just put them on hand tight. So there's our new oil filter, because I need to be able to break that loose. You saw how I could break it loose by hand. I want to make sure I can still do that when I get ready to take this off. So let me show you the tool. So these are oil filter pliers, and what you would do is you would adjust them so that you could grip it to break it loose. And there are a lot of different types of pliers. You want to be able to get them up around, and then you can break it loose with that. And ideally, want to make sure it makes a good connection all the way around it. I've seen some that are straps that you can strap down. Any of them will work. So sometimes the oil filters that are in a hard location to get to, sometimes the ones that have straps are easy, because you can just fit it around there, tighten it down, and then break it loose. So it's 4.4 quarts for this engine, and we want to do 0W20. You can see that this has 5 quarts, so I'm just going to put the majority of that in there, leave about a half quart out, run the engine, check the oil level before and after, and just see how much the oil filter takes up, and see if I need to add a little bit after I've run the engine. Nice and slow. You notice I'm pouring this towards the high side of the funnel, so that way if it splashes up, it'll splash up on that. So what I'm going to do is pour enough so that when it's level here, I know I've poured out most of it. All right, so I'm going to take the dipstick, run it down. Now we are at an angle, so ideally I'd like to have it perfectly level, but this will be a rough estimate right now before I bring it down off the blocks. So you can see we're halfway. You can see we're halfway on the dipstick between those two dots. So this being low, this being high. Let's check it one more time. Now that may level out once we bring it down off the blocks, but I just want to get a rough estimate before I do that. Let's put the dipstick back down. We'll check it again. And yeah, pretty much right there, just above low. So we're gonna put the oil cap back on anytime we crank the engine. Let it sit there and circulate. All right, let's check that one more time. Now that we've run some oil through the engine, we've got it level. It's nice and warm. Let's wipe that down. Let's check it. And that's right where we need to be. It's kind of drained down a little bit, but it was touching right here. So we're good. So turn the key on to change the oil life. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold this down for about 10 seconds. If it doesn't display the oil life, you may have to toggle through until you get to that point. So hold that down. It's gonna start blinking. So you wanna turn the knob now until you get to oil life, until that blinks. And then you want to press that and then hold this down for about 5 seconds once that starts to blink. So it's going to take a little bit. There we go. And then you switched it back to 100%. So we'll do it again. Let's just go through it. So toggle through until you get to oil off. Hold that down for 10 seconds. Now, once it starts to blink, turn the knob until it says oil off. I just went back 1 to the left. And you're gonna press that until it shows the oil off. And then you're gonna hold that down for about 5 seconds, maybe a little longer. There you go, and then it resets it. So once you've drained your oil, the oil filter is completely drained, you can seal this back up. Make sure that's nice and sealed. Make sure all your caps are sealed. The vent back here is sealed. The handle for this one is up here, and the part that you're going to drain it from, the drain is right here. Make sure all of that is completely sealed, because you do not want that pouring out in your garage or in your car. Just make sure all of that's on nice and tight, because this is going to be on the very bottom. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm always paranoid that that's going to come loose in the car or when I'm carrying it. When I carry it, I grab it like this, like that. I don't allow the spout to hang down, because I don't want that fluid to slosh through and bust open the cap. So you want to carry it like this to prevent any chance of spillage. And then you can take it to your auto parts store. A lot of different auto parts stores have a place where you can drain this out so that it can be recycled. So before I take it, I like to take a paper towel, an oil rag or something, and wipe that down so it doesn't get all over my car. Wipe it down real good and put it in the back or your trunk, somewhere out of the way. So if something does happen, it's not in your car. Especially if you have a truck, put it in the bed of the truck. Just wipe it down real good before you take it to the recycling location.